Another week. First and foremost, today is Father's Day, so to all the dads out there, in any way, shape, or form, happy Father's Day. Hope you enjoy your day. Hope you are having fun putting your feet up, maybe sitting by the slip and slide. It's hot out today, and you're enjoying your day. So thank you for all that you do for the kids, for being good role models, for all that fun stuff. My dad, my brother, my brother-in-law, everybody out there, happy Father's Day. So enjoy it. I know I am. I'm goofing off with the kids today, jumping in the pool, having lots of fun, eating some good food. That's what it's all about. So this week has been crazy, and I mean that in the best way I possibly can. It's been probably the biggest transitional week we've had this entire year, in my opinion, on how these fish's behavior patterns, locational patterns, feeding patterns have changed from the start of the week until today. Starting Monday through the weekend, things have changed, and it's been a very good, fun conversation piece as I've talked to a lot of anglers here in the last week on guide trips, in the office, friends, on social media, on how things have progressed. And my biggest piece of advice this week has always been get out there and fish, because things are changing and it's different on every body of water, but they're changing pretty rapidly. On Monday, we caught almost all of our better fish on a weightless wacky rig. Something that I've talked about, millions and millions of times. I'm not going to get onto it heavy, but this is what caught all of the fish on Monday. Was a weightless Cometa, a weightless wacky rig, a weightless Senko, 20-pound braid, fluorocarbon leader. You guys get the drift. We've talked about this before, but that's what all the fish bit on in 5 to 8 feet of water. I'd either put the boat up shallower and cast out, or I'd put the boat deeper and cast in. But that target zone on Monday was 5 to 8 feet of water, and those were all of our bigger bites. I would throw a chatterbait, a swim jig. I'd throw a number of different things just to try to get a different reaction of these fish, and I deviate to that, and I would go back to the wacky rig all the time, because everybody that was throwing the wacky rig was catching fish, and they were noticeably bigger. So that was Monday, right? As we progressed into Tuesday and Wednesday with some warmer weather, with some rain, with some wind. Tuesday was very windy, very warm, like 100 degrees. Fish changed, the bite was tough. Wednesday we got some rain, we got some overcast, the fish started to slide out. We started to catch a bunch of fish on Wednesday in not so much 5 to 8, but maybe 6 to 10, 6 to 12. It was a noticeable difference that they were not on the same spots they were Monday. And if they were this big. They weren't the ones we wanted. So we could actually follow these fish as they were making movements to their, what we call summer patterns. That day we caught a few fish on a weightless wacky, and we switched to a Ned rig or a jig worm to that effect to get more of our better bites. Or I'd actually take a weighted wacky head and throw it out there and get some fish. So slight transition. You can kind of see how things are starting to set up. Most of the boats that were out there on Wednesday with us, same thing. Mr. Jason Rosati won a little derby we had with our sales reps on Wednesday, and he caught a lot of his fish. I know jig worming, boat out in 16, 17 feet casting in, starting to do what they're supposed to do. This is bass fishing where we're talking about. And then as you move into Thursday and Friday, same thing. By Friday, we're catching all of our fish on what I would consider immediate weed line. I'm not talking deep weed edge yet, but immediate weed line. I had my boat on Friday pretty much predominantly in 15 to 20 feet casting in. Sometimes I was in 25 feet casting in, depending on the spot and how steep that edge was. But my target zone was probably that, I'd say, 10 to 15 foot range where I was casting my baits. And that was blatantly obvious where the fish were. And I was playing with some new stuff. I talked about it a little bit on social media. If you follow the page, my pages at all, jig worm fishing, Ned rig, caught a pile of fish. We always joke about the cheat code. If you have one bait you're just going to go out there and throw right now, I'd probably say throw a Ned rig. I've been using that brand new Ned ringer. Talked about it before from Mr. Twister. I got some right here. Just a little Ned ringer. Just a little 3-inch stubby ribbed bait. Putting that on your favorite Ned head. I've been catching a lot of fish on that. That's probably what I've been using the most. However, my biggest bites on Friday, on Saturday, this weekend, have been on this new variation I've been talking about. This is a Mighty Head from All Terrain. And this comes in a variety of colors. So you have black, you have green pumpkin, you have chartreuse jig head. And then, so it depends on your flavor. Obviously, if I'm a Minnetonka, I think you guys and gals know me enough. It's going to be a chartreuse head, maybe a different body of water. I'll go to a blackhead like I have here, or a green pumpkin. And I'm using usually an 1/8 ounce, maybe a 3/16. I'm not going much heavier than that, and I didn't go all the way down to a 3/32. I was using probably the 1/8 ounce here in my hand the most to catch these fish, and I've been using that Mr. Twister Try Alive Night Crawler. Now, it looks like a shaky worm, and that's probably what it's trying to emulate the most. I'm not using necessarily a shaky head. This would be more of your traditional jig worm head, longer shanked hook, thin wire hook. But this thing falls nice and slow. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but the back side of this is flat. So it's flat. The way it's molded, it's a flat bottom. So when this thing hits the water, it almost glides down into the water. It's a really cool looking presentation as these fish are in these, what I would consider mid-depth ranges still. I'm not getting them in 20 to 24 feet in the deep coontail. I'm getting them in 10 to 15, and this thing just kind of flutters and slides through the weeds, but yet I can make good contact with this bait. So this combination has been, cross my fingers, in the last few days, my go-to bait right there for catching the biggest bass of the day. And I was throwing this the last few days, caught a bunch of fish. This just happens to be a blackhead and a different profile color body. I think you saw my rig that I posted on social media of this variation with the chartreuse head and that bull bluegill. That one was money for me. I had some of my clients checking this one around, caught a bunch of fish on this one as well. So this color variation, caught a bunch of fish. I think it's just the profile, the action, and the way this bait fishes right now that catches the fish. So working exceptionally well. I'm excited to put this to work again this entire week, see if that pattern continues. And I'm fishing it on a 7.5 foot medium action rod. You could do a medium light. I'm using 20-pound braid to an 8 or 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. And I'm using a Shimano 2500 series or 3000 series reel, and away we go. This has been working really well. Super fun bait to fish, very effective bait to fish. I even caught some fish with this when I went up onto a weed point, let's say in 6, 7, 8 feet of water, kind of casting in the scattered sparse weeds. So caught a bunch of fish that way. So we're still getting some fish on moving baits. John yesterday, one of my clients, kind of kicked our butt for a while on a chatterbait. I was throwing a Ned. Joe was throwing a swim jig, another moving bait, or a jig worm or something, or a wacky, and John in the back was just whacking them on a chatterbait. He caught quite a few fish over 3 pounds on that. He had that bite going. That bite weaned by 9 a.m., 10 a.m. We couldn't buy a bite on a chatterbait, which is kind of typical. Early morning this time of year, hot days, that morning bite tends to be a little better for more aggressive fish. But this is kind of what we're doing. This is how we're targeting fish. We did a little bit of drop shotting yesterday. Didn't get much to go on it. It might have been a timing thing. We tried the drop shot middle of the day when they weren't biting any of this stuff that we just talked about. So drop shot could definitely be thrown into the mix if you're doing the jig worm thing during those right window bites. Otherwise, didn't really target any panfish. The pike were chowing on everything. They're on the weed lines as well. Didn't really target any walleyes. It's been predominantly bass this week for me. A lot of Lake Minnetonka, some Chisago stuff, some West Metro stuff. So we're seeing some consistencies on the lakes we're fishing. But some quality fish are finding their way to the boat. It's really fun. So that's the pattern we're seeing right now. I'm anticipating to see that same jig worm Ned rig pattern. When I'm going out this week, I'm gonna have Ned rigs and jig worms rigged for my clients. We're probably gonna forego the wacky rig. I'll probably still have a chatterbait or a swim jig tied on if we decide to get a little crazy and adventurous on some of the main lake flats or points near deep water during specific times of the day, depending on the weather conditions. But it's going to be hot. I think at some point tomorrow, I believe they said it could hit 100, which is crazy. And then we're going to have a relatively warm week. So summer's here. As far as I'm concerned, it's summer patterns. Let's finish out June strong, and we'll be talking July 4th before we know it. So that's what's cooking. Again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great week, and keep cracking them. Good luck out there.